I'm Sheilaa Hite, and I'm here today to talk to you about astrology and the month of July. July's theme is intense identity issues. So, what you need to do with this triple I of intense identity issues is you need to focus on the I of your life, the personal you. A lot's going to be going on. We have two major eclipses. We have a lot of oppositions and squares. And we have Mercury, our planet of communication, Mercury going retrograde and connecting with, matching up to Mars, which is the planet of how we take action. So almost every day, something is going to be happening. What that means is we need to pay attention to what is going on, not just the details of what's going on, but to the way we feel, to how things come into our consciousness, to how fast they're operating, or how slow, to whether we feel good before we know what the feeling is, or we feel badly before we know what that feeling is. It's about identifying what has meaning and value to us one way or the other. And the things that have meaning and value don't always mean, oh, this is a good thing. Sometimes you need to look and say, oh, I know what the value of that is to me. And that really, I don't have no use for it. I need to, in a sense, put that in a box and set it out on the curb. Perhaps somebody else out in the world will have use for this thing. And the month of July is going to be having us, in a sense, go through our things, sort and sift in a very dynamic way. So let's begin with the aspects. Starts off with a definite bang. Mars, the planet of dynamite, and how we take action, how we get things done, is in the planet, in the sign rather, will be moving into the sign of Leo on July 1st. That's number one. Day one, we start out at 90 miles an hour. So when Mars, the planet of how we get things done, changes signs, that means we change the way we get things done. We change the impetus. We change the way things come to us. And Mars going from laid back internal Cancer into dynamic, in your face, wow, Leo, is going to be a pretty exciting, not dull time. Things will get done. It'll be a very dramatic time. It'll be a very passionate time. This is the time, if you've got an idea for something, get going with it. Use this energy to support yourself. Use this energy to determine how fast and how far you're going to go this month. Because this is a month that's filled with opportunity for movement and change. As a matter of fact, this month has, as I said, it has identity as its theme. It also has a theme song. And that theme song is Cha-Cha Changes by St. David Bowie. And I urge you to just start listening to it and playing it, because that's what's really playing on an unconscious level in your psyche at this time anyway. Now, occasionally during this time that I'm talking to you, I'm going to look away at my notes, but don't worry, I will be back. And here is one of those times. So on July 2nd, we have a total solar eclipse. What that means is the new moon, which is the time when the moon and the sun are in the same sign. The new moon will be in the sign of Cancer, and it will bring new things. It will bring things that encourage us to be nurturing to others and to ourselves. It'll bring new things and encourage us to look at where our roots are and whether or not those are the roots in the plants that we want to be growing. It'll encourage us to take better care of ourselves. Now, at the same time of this new moon, there is an eclipse. And an eclipse is a phenomenal, dynamic energy force. And it brings in an energy that says, it will be new. There will be newness. You can say, I don't want it, but it's going to be showing up. And it shows up dramatically. It's a dramatic aspect, an eclipse. It shows up dramatically. It's in Leo. What else could it be? And it's going to show up and it's going to affect how you feel, because Leo rules the heart. It's going to affect how you express yourself in the world, because Leo rules self-expression and the world stage. And this eclipse is going to insist that you reveal to yourself as well as to the world the bounty that is you. And what does that mean, the bounty that is you? Well, simply put, what it means is that you are in the process of finding out what is true for you and displaying that to the world. So whatever your real is, whatever your truth is, whatever the dynamic you is front and center. And it's not about, oh, I'll hide until this is over, because you've got a whole month of the world having expectations and expectations about who you are. And you have a whole month of you saying, well, wait a minute, what about my expectations for who I am? And here's a hint. Go with your expectations for who you are. That'll be the best bet. There is no safe bet, because this is a wild roller coaster month. So there's a best bet. Vote for yourself. Choose yourself. Now then, we move on to July 3rd. July 3rd, the planet Venus, which rules relationships, rules women, it rules value, self-value, and the value of others, and the value of things. Venus moves into the nurturing sign of Cancer. So we have Mars, dynamic Mars, moving into dynamic Leo, saying, look at me. And then we have the beautiful, gentle Venus moving into the internal sign of Cancer, nurturing self, nurturing others. This is a good thing, because your balance will be off if you're just running headlong into your life. That's Mars and Leo, without something to say, wait a minute, let's mitigate this. Let's make this action work for us, as opposed to having this action totally deplete us of our energy. And that's what Venus in Cancer is going to do. So Venus says, show that you value yourself by taking care of yourself. Show that you value yourself by attending to what makes you, you, by looking at your roots, by tending to the garden of you. Are there certain plants that need to be pruned? This is a good time to prune them. Are there certain plants that need to be encouraged? This is a good time to encourage them. Venus in Cancer is an excellent time to give permission to that part of you that wants to give birth to some new aspect, something that will benefit you, benefit those in your family, and benefit others. And when I said family, I don't just mean the people that you are related to by blood. Family by blood is often an accident, sometimes a happy one, sometimes not. But family of choice, that's your tribe. Those are the people that you gravitate towards, the people who get you. I like to say, and often do, especially when I advise people about relationships, that somebody liking you is important. That person also has to love you. That's important if that's the kind of relationship you're in. More importantly, in all of your relationships, that person has to get you. You need to be liked, you need to be loved, and that person has to get you. To get you, what that means is they have to say, that's you, and that's okay with me. It's not how I do it necessarily, but that's you, and that's how your package operates. And so in the month of July, Venus, as I said, is immediately going into Cancer. And you have to let it be okay that you get you. And you have to be aware that it's got to be okay that others get you. Because without them getting you, your relationship is like a four-legged table on only three legs. So we move on to July 7th. July 7th is very busy. On July 7th, Mercury, the planet of communication, the planet of plans, Mercury goes retrograde. And what that means is, it sounds like it means Mercury goes backwards. Well, in a way, it appears to go backwards. But what it does is it slows down. And when it slows down, it takes its time coming to conclusions, coming up with ideas, coming up with plans. And it forces you to stay in the slow lane. It forces you to move over to the right, stay in the slow lane, and watch a lot of the world go by in a way that you're not necessarily used to or comfortable with. But it's important for you to take that time. So the planet Mercury will be in the sign of Leo, the very dynamic sign of Leo, and it'll be together with, conjunct, that's what we call it. This is a power force, a conjunction, with the planet Mars, the planet of how we take action. So there's the way you think, the way you act, and by God, they're both going to be in the sign Leo. And please watch what you do and pay attention to what you think. Because Leo is the sign of I. Just about, that's it, I. It really is all about you during the time of Leo. And that's not a bad thing, because you just need to be aware that there are other people on the planet who, by the way, know that it's all about the I. So when Mercury, that Mercury going retrograde in Leo, it's saying, stop and think a minute. You don't really want to have to go around and clean up a lot of messes. You don't really want to have to go around and make a lot of apologies, because that takes up a lot of time. And why break it if you don't have to? Now, being human and being alive, there are things that are going to get broken. That takes up enough of our time and energy. Let's not add to it by saying, oh, well, I really lost my mind there. Because the opportunity to lose your mind is just as strong as the opportunity to keep it and to know what needs to be done so that you don't trip over your own self, over your own ego, over your own issues. Keep in mind that the I that you feel entitled to is the I that everybody feels entitled to. And this is an excellent time to be aware of how much we all, as a group, as a planet, how much we all need and rely on each other and relate to each other. And it's the best way to relate to each other is by getting your value and getting my value and realizing we can take it slowly. That thing you really need to say right now, you probably don't. And if it turns out you do, it'll be just as important down the line. So we move on to the month of, we're still in the month, but to July 9th. July 9th has got a lot going on. Everybody is born with a soul wound. The soul wound is that thing that is always, it's that thing that's always sensitive. Something always bumps up against it. Or at certain times you feel, it feels achier than others. And those soul wounds are emotional and spiritual. And they go deep. And everybody knows what theirs is. And if you don't know it consciously, you do know it on some level because you're always protecting it in some way. We came here into this life to heal that soul wound. Well, that soul wound is going to get a lot of attention this month, but especially this week, the week of July 9th, because the sun is the ego, the life force, the I amness of life, will be together, conjunct, the North Node, which is the best way to do things. The North Node says, oh, this is what you came here for. So our ego, our life force, is conjunct with what we came here for, and they're opposites. Saturn, which rules the rules. Saturn is the should planet. Saturn is also foundation, and it's success. Very interesting. And it's also, Saturn is together, conjunct with the South Node. The South Node is the opposite of the North Node. The South Node contains everything we ever experienced, everything we ever did, everything we ever were. And the South Node gives that freely. That's why it works on a subconscious level all the time. And so this time, starting in July, we're going to need to pay attention to what's going on with us unconsciously, subconsciously, and consciously. That's interesting because Mercury will be retrograde at this time. So we have a great assistant to us doing exactly that. Think about what it is you're about. Think about what's coming up for you. Slow down, pay attention. Ask when you have a thought, where did that thought come from? Ask, what is the value of that thought to where I am today and where I want to be tomorrow? And ask if it's worth it. You're now incorporating the sun, you're incorporating Venus, you're incorporating Mars, and you're incorporating Mercury. and you're incorporating both the north and the south nodes, and you're really building it on the platform of Saturn, because Saturn rules that dynamic, it's still and dynamic at the same time, foundation of life. And if you build something on a proper foundation, it not only lasts, but it pays you off. So we then move on to July 11th. July 11th is Mars, the planet of how we take action, and Uranus, the planet of unpredictable, uncontrollable, unexpected, wow changes. So anything can happen with Mars conjunct Uranus. So it's not about what happens, it's about how you are, so that no matter what happens, you handle things well. This whole month, as I said before, is about your identity. Who are you? We know who you are, not only by what's on your driver's license, but we know who you are by how you carry out your daily duties of being alive. We know who you are by how you act, by what you say, by how you say it, and by what you do when you do make a mistake. Do you clean it up? Do you hope, well, maybe they didn't notice it? Do you say to yourself, well, even if they noticed it, I'm not going to apologize, or I'm not going to acknowledge it and clean it up? Let's take a look and see, who are you? Are you the courageous person who says, as awful as it feels to my ego, I've got to turn and look at the things that I am doing? This whole month is about that. It's about saying to your ego, no, I can't let you run this show. I have to let my soul and my spirit run this show. You, my ego, can assist by giving me strength, but you cannot dictate or determine how my life is going to run. This month, interestingly enough, begins the second half of this year. This whole year is a pivotal year. It's going to change everything for us. So we've already seen that. So here we are now, where in a sense, the month of July says, okay, the books have been put away. You're now going to demonstrate how well you can do this, living your own identity, truth thing. So Mars is, as I said before, how we take action. So anything can happen. Uranus is anything can happen. So please, Mars rules passion. It rules your temper, rules an emotional part of you. Please breathe deeply. As a matter of fact, deep breathing is important during this time. Studied thought is important during this time. Do not take immediate, quick action. It's not a good thing, because that Mars is wanting to move forward, and that Uranus is wanting to expose everything to God only knows what kind of chaos. And in order for Mars and Uranus to work together and work well with you, you need to be as grounded, Saturn, as you possibly can. And you need to be honest with yourself. We would all like to be something in some ways. But let's be honest about where we are today and work with that. Because as you work with where you are today and how you are and what you are today, you will find yourself grounded. You'll find yourself with roots you can depend on. And you'll not find yourself having to clean up really awful messes. So it's an interesting month of going, wow, I have to be careful. Yes, this month of July, it's kind of like a lovely, lovely glass shop. You walk in and, oh, look at all of the glass sculptures and the blown glass this and the plates and the vases. Oh my God, it's fabulous. But you have to be careful, because all of the aisles, the passageways in the shop are narrower than you're used to. So you can't go really fast. You need to go slowly. You need to gauge the distance you've got between the aisles, and you need to keep going so that you don't bump into anything. None of the displays, and certainly none of the personnel, none of the keepers of this shop. And the keepers are good conscience. The keepers are a good heart and lightness of mind. That's really what you have to do. If you bump into those, you're off on an ego trip of some sort that's not going to serve you, not going to serve your insurance company because somebody's got to pay for that broken glass. And your insurance company isn't as easy as getting on the phone and making a phone call. It's all the parts of you that have to face you, and all the parts of you that actually have to say to yourself, I have to own what I'm doing here. And I have to decide whether or not I'm going to be proud of what I'm doing here, or I'm going to be ashamed of that. Give yourself more to be proud of, less to be ashamed of. The key here is, who are you? Are you that sensitive person, sensitive to your detriment, to your ego? Or are you that open person who, yes, on the ego side doesn't like looking at themselves as imperfect, but the soul heart mission of reaching divine perfection says, that's something I need to polish up, or I can soften, or I can fix. Be that person. So then we move to July 14th. July 14th, that's the middle of the month. The sun, the life force, the ego, the I amness of you, meets Pluto. And how does it meet Pluto? It's in opposition. Here's the sun, and here's Pluto. And they face each other. And you can almost hear that kind of Western gunfighter music as they square off. And they don't have to pull guns, they don't have to shoot, but they are recognizing each other. They can acknowledge each other, and they can acknowledge that, yes, we are totally different, and they can do something positive with that. And what you want to be aware of when Pluto is involved with anything is that Pluto represents power. It represents the ultimate truth and ultimate healing. Pluto represents intimacy. Intimacy with yourself as well as intimacy with others. And Pluto represents who you are through all of your lifetimes. So it's interesting that now we're being asked to create, not really create, but to decide and decipher what our identity is at this point. And this is the identity of all of those lifetimes. What has worked, keep that. What has not or is not working, let's set that aside. Not only aside, let's set it on the curb. We move on to July 16th. July 16th. Finally, we're past the halfway point. That is the full moon lunar eclipse. And that's the full lunar eclipse. The full moon is intense anyway. The full moon is kind of like an eclipse. So when you say full moon eclipse, you're saying lunar eclipse, you're saying the same thing twice in a lot of ways. Things will have to be exposed to the light of the moon, and things will have to be released. And a lot of times releasing means letting go, means opening your hands, letting go, opening your mind, letting go, opening your heart, letting go of what doesn't serve you. And during this Mercury retrograde, this is an excellent time, because remember, retrograde means to go back over. You went through all kinds of things in your mind, in your experience, in your life, your lifetimes, and some of it, please don't hold on to. It's time to put it in that box and set it on the curb. And with the full moon lunar eclipse, you're also being told that this is about personal freedom, because that's what clearing everything does for you. It gives you personal freedom. So during this lovely time of the full moon and this lovely time of the lunar eclipse, let yourself find out who you are. Now, release is not only, of course, setting things out on the curb. Release is saying, I'm going to do this thing that I've wanted to do. Letting something out, letting that part of you that is beneficial to yourself and beneficial to your world, letting that express itself. Have you ever thought about writing a book? If you feel that you've got a book in you, start now. Have you thought about, well, you know what, I'm taking that dance class. Take that dance class. Release those parts of you that have been held back, that have been blocked by all of the other stuff in front of you, in front of how you express yourself. Then we move to July 19th. Mercury, remember retrograde Mercury, then re-enters the sign of Cancer, because remember, it goes backwards, or it appears to. And so it was in the sign of Leo at the very beginning. And now by July 19th, it's in the sign, it's moved back to Cancer. So from thinking in dynamic, passionate ways, you're being told to, let's go within. Let's ponder this. Let's not make any quick decisions here. Let's see whether this idea, this plan I have, nurtures me, whether it nurtures my world. Let's see what's really going on. It's time to know yourself. Know thyself, the Greeks had carved on their temples. This is your time. Look within and know yourself. Then on to July 21st. Well, July 21st is one of the more interesting aspects, to me anyway, in my universe. It's Venus, which is balance and love and relationships and value and health, healing and health, is in opposition to Pluto. Now, you've heard me say Pluto more than once, and so I'm saying it again. Venus opposition Pluto, wow. Let's negotiate, because Pluto doesn't negotiate. However, it's how you approach Pluto that determines whether or not you get a satisfactory outcome. So even though Pluto doesn't negotiate, Pluto is willing to go according to your value system if you cooperate with it. And what does Pluto want? Among other things, transformation. This is a time when your relationships must be transformed. Transformed, you with you with others, others with you. If you don't want to do that, then your relationships will be demolished on some level. Something has got to change on the level of relationships with you, and you with others. There are control issues. There will be. These things, I'm telling you, it's hot. It's July, at least in the northern hemisphere. It's Mars is doing what it's doing, and Mercury's doing what it's doing, and Pluto's doing what it's doing. It's intense. So it's kind of hot anyway. Everything's hot. So we come up with this Pluto opposition Mars, and what we have to do is we have to remember that values and relationships are here, that we have a tendency to fly off the handle as human beings, and certainly when it gets too hot, too intense, there's too much pressure on us, that can happen. This is a perfect time to have Zen be a part of your vocabulary, your verbs, your life. Just have a Zen moment. Be Zen. Behave in a Zen way. Is about as intense as you need to get in expressing an emotion. Now that'll be challenging because we've got Pluto there, which definitely is intensity. And so you've got to say to yourself, I really do not want to nuke everything and everyone around me. And that is a possibility if I don't find some balance and I don't find a way to agree with what Pluto wants. Not oppose, not argue, but agree with what Pluto wants by transforming. Transforming myself will transform the situation. This is a time when of secrets and intimacy, when secrets and intimacy can be revealed if things have not been handled correctly. And what I mean by things haven't been handled correctly, who have you been telling your secrets to? What secrets do you have about yourself that you don't know, but other people do? It's about coming clean. In a big way, you could say that one of your great tools this month would be the hand mirror, holding the hand mirror and looking at it and saying, well, who am I really? Not who have I told myself or who do I want to be, but who am I really? Because during this time, the secrets that you've told yourself that you don't even remember consciously, the intimacy, the levels of intimacy you deal with yourself on, those are the levels that other people are dealing with consciously. And you want a fair exchange as you deal with their energy and intimacy and they deal with yours. You want a fair exchange so that both of you come out. When I say both of you, I mean your sense of how you feel and your sense of the need to transform come out with the results you want. We then move on to Mercury conjuncting the sun. Now, on the same day, which is the 21st of July, while all that's going on with Pluto and Venus, Mercury, the mind, the way we think, comes together with the sun, who we are, or certainly who we have come to believe we are. So we've got all of these energies. This is an intense time. And everything does appear to be happening at once. And what we have to do is, it's up to us to remain focused, balanced, and calm. Really about that. It's a heart's time. Always center yourself in your heart. If you do that, nothing shakes you, nothing moves you off your point. There are certain things in the world that are really, really not ideal, especially now. Your flying off the handle about them is not going to help the situation. You're acknowledging that these things are not right. You're saying, now what can we do with these things or about these things? And then coming up with a plan. Remember that Mercury is going back over things, going retrograde. What can we do to come up with a plan that works? And let's take the time we need to take. It's consistency and it's moving forward, and it's applying consistent force as we move forward. That's going to make any difference in your life, whether on a huge political scale or on a huge personal scale. On July 22nd, the sun enters the sign of Leo. It's official, folks. It's okay to have that hand mirror, to admire what God created, and to give yourself lots and lots of opportunity to adorn yourself, to shower yourself with joy, with love, and with what you really do deserve, which is a peaceful, rightful way of being you and expressing yourself through life. Now, one of the things you've got to do during the month of July is you've got to play. You have got to play. I feel you need to play every month, but certainly during the month of July, and it's certainly once the sun goes into the sign Leo. Take a couple of days and go and play somewhere. You can't take a couple of days, take a few hours and go and do something you haven't done or you promised yourself you were going to do, or something. Just be whimsical. Decide, I'm going to the zoo or to the butterfly reserve, or I'm just going to go at ice cream and I think I'm going to buy a toy, an actual toy that I like. Go and do that, because the time of Leo is the time of the child. It's a time of the creator, of the child, and of the stage and the actor in life. So what are you doing for your child in here? This would be an excellent time to go and get yourself something lovely. Get yourself a hand mirror, perhaps. Or, if you're like me, why not a full length or a wall-to-wall? Mirrors are extremely important because you are getting to see the person you love the most. And during that time, adorn that person. And to adorn someone is to shower them with some sort of praise or bauble that says, I love and value you. Here is something of equal beauty to who you are. So your beauty comes in so many forms. And let's have that reflected by how you present yourself into the world. One year I had an occasion, it was during Leo time. 7 Leos showed up in my life, all at the same time. 2 came out to visit me from the Midwest when I was living in California, out to visit me, and I worked with 5 others. And I thought, what am I going to get these Leos for their birthday? Because you can't not get a Leo a birthday present. And then it dawned on me, mirrors. Get each one of them a mirror. And that's what I did. I got the hostess at the restaurant I worked in. I got her a beautiful Art Deco style fan mirror on a cord so that she could open it whenever she wanted and see herself before she continued her duties. I got the chef in the kitchen a mirror on a stand so that as he was cooking, he could look up occasionally and see himself. And I got all these people the gift they loved the most. And I'm still in touch with some of these people, and they still tell me that that's the best gift they ever got. So that's what this is for. Find that part of you that you love and celebrate it. Then we move on to July 29th, and that is the sun our life force, the I amness, our egos, square, making an abrasive aspect to the planet Uranus. Remember Uranus, the planet of unpredictable, unexpected, oh my God, change. So when Uranus does anything with any planet, it's going to be wild. It has the potential for chaos. It has the potential for forces that it's like the Tower card in the tarot. It has the potential for all kinds of mayhem. Do not let that be the case. The sun, the ego, some rivers you cannot turn. You either get out of the river or you flow with it. But don't try to stop it. Don't try to turn it because it won't work. You won't get the kind of help you need from the universe if you get out there and attempt to block what needs to be done. There are ways to handle it. If you don't like the way the river is moving, then what you need to do is start making plans to figure out a way to have the river go in the direction you want it to go in a way that works, benefits. Speak with engineers. Take a look at the course at the land. See how you can shift the river. How can you dam the river in certain places? And that's not just about that water between two pieces of land I'm talking about. It's the river of life. It's the river, the flow of how we do things. This time, anything can happen. Now, when people say Uranus is involved, there is a natural kind of fear, the same kind of thing that comes up when we see the Tower card. However, the instructions for the Tower card are, if you pay attention and listen carefully, when those bricks come falling down, first of all, don't stand under the tower. Secondly, get yourself on the phone, call a brick retrieval company who will come out, pay you to take those bricks away. Or you can freak out, have the bricks fall on you, and the ambulance comes and takes you away, and your insurance bills are high, and you still have to clean up the mess. So grounded, solid roots, get out of the way of what you can't do anything about, and make good plans to make sure that that experience enriches you. Then the last aspect of the month, it's like, thank goodness, there's a last aspect. On July 31st, Mercury, our friend Mercury, goes direct. Oh, a sigh of relief, as finally we can start going through everything we've gone through the previous 31 days, and we can see what has happened, where the dust has settled, what we need to do. We can see how much we've grown and benefited from this time, how much we've learned, and how much we've changed, and how much we've come into our true selves, how we've begun to not only identify our true selves, but to be our true selves. Because that's what this has all been about, identity. It's been about enjoying who you are, who you were created to be, and really letting yourself be a positive influence in your life and the lives of others. But it has to start with you. This is about identity, remember that. And there are changes that are going to come that will assist you, whether you want them to or not. Go with the river. And as I said before, go with the river. Who knows what that trip is going to be like, but it's not going to be dull or boring. So I thank you very much for watching this, and I wish you the very best, and wow, it's going to be quite a month. Thanks.